Welcome to the School of Love, the place where miracles are normal. Hello, and welcome to the School of Love, the place where we will learn about strategies and tactics to live life to its fullest. My name is Maria, and I'm doing my best to guide you in building up a life of contentment, joy, and fulfillment while applying lessons learned in school to overcome the difficulties, challenges, and insecurities in the real world. From the very beginning, I must emphasize the fact that this channel is not part of my educational and research activities at Hiroshima University. It is nonetheless part of my privilege, joy, and sense of duty to propagate and implement knowledge, information, as well as motivation and inspiration outside the limited framework of academic endeavors. Together, we can build up a better tomorrow for as many of us as possible. If you're new to the channel, at this moment, I would like to ask you to please consider subscribing, sharing, liking, commenting. Thank you very, very much. This helps us not only with that mysterious algorithm which seems to dominate the YouTube galaxy, but also with contributing to the expansion of the community of humans doing their best to impact positively the world and those around them by discovering their authentic selves and living life wholeheartedly. Thanks again. With that being said, let's dive right into today's topic, which is the relationship between humans and their environment, respectively the portrayal of this relationship in mass media. In this video, I focus on two animation works which share a common concern for nature and its increasingly troubled relationship with humans. Both Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, and the Nut Job 2, Nutty By Nature, deal with the increasingly acute problem of the destruction of animals' natural habitat by means of human intervention. While more than 2 decades and specific geographic circumstances separate the two animation productions, they highlight similar burning issues related to the anthropocentric advancement of life on Earth and the potential dangers which result from this reconfiguration of the natural designed food chain. In Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, released in 1994 by Studio Ghibli, the reputed animation director Takahata Isao chooses tanuki, a sort of raccoons, as main protagonists to deliver powerful, profound messages to audiences already insensitive to current challenges and upheavals. At first glance, the main theme seems to be the destruction of the furusato or homeland as a consequence of human action, seen from the perspective of the animals, unable to protect themselves efficiently from the human ruthlessness. Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, though, is less a fantastic story with talking animals a la Walt Disney and rather a realist representation with almost documentary-like accuracy. On the other hand, in the Nut Job 2, Nutty By Nature, directed by Cal Brunker and released by Open Road Films, ToonBox Entertainment, Gulfstream Pictures, Rover International, and Shanghai Hoongman in 2017, the purple squirrel Surly lives in the midst of the Liberty Park's urban wildlife community while overseeing an all-you-can-eat buffet at Maury's Nut Shop, now renamed Nibbler's Nut Shop, all located in the fictional city of Oakland City. Their quotidian life is interrupted when Percival J. Muldoon, the unscrupulous mayor of the city, decides to turn it into an amusement park named Libertyland, out of concern that Liberty Park is not financially prosperous and never makes money to add to the city's budget. Surly and Andy discover Muldoon's plot, and Surly convinces the animals to sabotage the construction workers' efforts to tear down the park. In the process, various tactics are employed, which neatly divide between good and evil, while the ground tenor of the movie builds up tension towards the inevitable denouement. The relatability of the characters results from their plain but striking memorability, as well as from the transferability of the situations they find themselves involved in, be it the animals protecting their habitat and the weaker among them, being the human strength to expand their gains despite calculated damages incurred to their own habitat and the loss of natural resources. The current analysis takes into account three levels of the debate on the impact humans have on the life conditions of animals: anthropomorphism, deep ecology versus environmentalist propaganda, and discursive rather than practical solutions, which reflect the three dimensions circumscribing historical phenomena: social, cultural, economic, political, and technological, educational. To start with anthropomorphism and the social culture circumscription of nature, it is well known that when perceiving and processing their environment, children have an innate tendency to humanize it by adding elements which turn it from an external unknown into an internal familiar. This tendency diminishes throughout the years as children mature into full-fledged grown-ups, but at some deeper level, the ability to understand and empathize with familiar structures rather than unknown elements stays strong, which is why comics and cartoons with talking animals are by far more impactful than those employing human-like characters. Consistent with Japanese folklore, in Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, tanuki are presented as highly sociable, mischievous beings, able to employ the art of illusion to change shape in all possible things. In the design process of his tanuki, Takahata embarks on a long journey back into the deep past of Japanese culture, where traditional folk beliefs of the power of the tanuki to change shape and to coexist with humans reside. Zoologically speaking, tanuki are raccoon-like mammals. In the Japanese folkloric imagination, they are lazy but cheerful animals who are able to change their shapes into all possible alternate figures. They do it as a game, and seldom, almost never, out of malevolence. Tanuki seem to enjoy good food and a leisurely life, and they can hardly ever become really malicious. To this end, in the film, there are three visual depiction modes of the tanuki, depending upon which role they are supposed to play in every scene, related to the environment and to the plot. Firstly, they can take over an anthropomorphic appearance, when they are supposed to look like humans, so that the audience can identify itself as much as possible with the tanuki, with their destiny and their struggle. In the movie, they appear mostly in this mode. Secondly, they are displayed in a more plain manga-like manner, with cute facial features and funny shapes, apparently inspired by the drawing style of the manga author Sugiura Shigeru, who lived between 1908 and 2000, while organizing something strange, funny, or forbidden. Thirdly, they are represented very realistically, according to their zoological nature, while being around humans and contrasting to them. Thus, tanuki are either integrated in the late modern Japanese habitat as a reconstruction of the folkloric, traditionally established past via the anthropomorphic drawing style, or relocated within the contemporary context of popular everyday culture via the manga-like drawing style, the third representation mode being rather a stylistic necessity to differentiate between categories when the fantastic and the real intertwine. In contrast, in the Nut Job 2, Nutty By Nature, the characters keep their original appearances. They are drawn as talking animals in the tradition initiated by Walt Disney and continued ever since in most animation works released by Western enterprises. The narrative line respects the structure of the classical dramaturgic pyramid explained by Gustav Freytag, with a clear exposition, inciting incident, rising action, climax, falling action, and denouement or resolution, so that the characters involved take over clearly outlined roles. Thirdly, a purple squirrel who was at first loathed by the park's animals is now considered a hero for defeating Raccoon in the first movie. The Nut Job, released in 2014 under the direction of Peter Lepeniotis, produced by Endgame Entertainment, Red Rover International, ToonBox Entertainment, Gulfstream Pictures, and distributed by Open Road Films. Sully becomes Andy's boyfriend after helping to save all animals inhabiting Liberty Park from a dire food shortage that he had unintentionally caused. He is a typical main character on a symbolical journey on which he encounters hardships he has to overcome with the help of those around him. In doing so, he learns important individual values such as hard work, honesty, persistence, and collective values such as loyalty, empathy, cooperation. More importantly, the Liberty Park animals are not presented as idealization of the humans they are supposed to embody, but display complex physical and mental emotional configurations which allow them to appear both relatable and realist. Once nature is humanized and therefore brought more closely to the audience's own quotidian experiences, it is gradually turned into an instrument to convey producers' messages. In both Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, and the Nut Job 2, Nutty By Nature, the main message seems to be the destruction of the animal's habitat and its replacement with constructions which serve humans' needs, be it a result of economic growth or of greed and ruthlessness, which brings us to the next level. At first sight, Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, is a common eco-oriented manifesto, reinforced in the final scene in which Shokichi's best friend, Ponkichi, addresses the audiences directly and pleads for a more friendly attitude towards the freely roaming tanuki. The impish tanuki, familiar characters from Japanese folk tales, are reintroduced into the Japanese everyday life and are appointed to communicate a heartbreaking version of Studio Ghibli's famous eco message. From this perspective, Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War's message might be summed up as a warning about the negative effects of human actions upon the environment and upon those beings living within that environment, unable to defend themselves against the human actions. The destruction of the rural landscape in favor of the construction of new housing facilities. Takahata operates with dynamic, realistic characters to deliver an important serious message, counterpointed by humor and a positive worldview, and accompanied by the wonderful folkloristic music played by the band Shang Shang Typhoon. However, there is a second, more subtle and more pervasive and less popular interpretation of the movie. Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, is a hymn of life, as the best asset one possesses and could ever possess. It is possible to go one step further and assert that Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, is for Takahata what Princess Mononoke would be later for Miyazaki Hayao. The artistic analysis of that favorite spare time activity of the modern human being, consisting of the destruction of myth, the killing of gods, the transformation of the holy into profane, and the dissolution of the magic, that is, carrying the netherworld into this world out of pure fun. The main problem in this endeavor seems to be the fact that the modern human being cannot replace the disenchanted world with anything else. In Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, Takahata attempts to decorate the bleak and comfortless everyday life with light and joy by displaying a colorful version of existence, the existence of humans, of animals, and of nature as something extremely valuable. On a similar note, the Nut Job 2, Nutty By Nature's main focus is to highlight the vitality of nature in its extremely limited version of a city park. For once, it is not genuine nature, as it had already been tamed by humans in their urbanization movement, which is the main element of industrialization and technological development. The animals living in the park are not wild animals, but ones who had already been turned into city dwellers. And with this socio-economic transformation, specific behavioral changes had occurred. There is an uncomfortable subtlety in the initial representation of Sully and his companions as lazy, greedy freeloaders, enjoying a carefree life at the all-you-can-eat buffet at Morris Nut Shop, now renamed Nibbler's Nut Shop. This seems as the best of all possible worlds, were it not for Andy, the main character, Sully's love interest, worries. Andy promotes a more work-first, reward-later existential vision. The further development of the plot unveils the city mayor's plans to turn the park into an amusement enterprise, which will bring in more financial gains. The threat posed surpasses by far the previous food crisis, with Sully feeling responsible for those around him, an attitude inspired by Andy's sense of urgency rather than by the very real situation surrounding him. Slowly, a second message emerges in the background of the first one, indelibly visible in the visual auditive outfit of the animated movie. The necessity of cooperation among those involved, compounded by the urge to find common strategies in order to assure the survival of all those affected, and not only of the fittest. This is a far more humanist solution than the one proposed by Takahata in Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, in which survival of the fittest seems as the only alternative, accompanied by the unconditional acceptance of death as inevitable part of the cosmic cycle. In The Nut Job 2, Nutty By Nature, cooperation both within the Liberty Parks community and among the various communities already pushed to their survival limits in the city ensures the survival of their members, enhanced by faith that positive outcomes are not only possible but also probable, as long as one looks for them in the right places and moves forward, boldly, courageously, compassionately. Eventually, the humans themselves are presented less as demonized figures with their relentless greed, aggressiveness, ruthlessness, and more as misguided individuals. While Takahata's ecological worldview relates to an all-encompassing vision of nature and humanity as parts of a considerably larger and more complex whole, which cannot be grasped within individuals' life's dimensions, Cal Brunker's humanist vision refers majorly to the individuals living in here and now, and blurs the larger-than-life extrapolations of historical advancement. Artistic works cannot change the world, but they can deliver decisive impulses into the right direction, and so we arrive at the third level. The expansion of the urban living spaces into the surrounding rural areas is recognized as an economic and population-related necessity. Simultaneously, though, it is questioned due to the brutality of the subsequent destruction, cynically seen as collateral damage in the name of progress and civilization. The serious message of Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, is conveyed with what has become to be regarded as Takahata's in-house brand of warm humanism and tender irony. Even if it hurts, one must go with the flow of time and adapt to it, in order to survive. One of the last scenes is highly symbolical. A young family living in one of the newly built housing facilities is extremely happy to see a couple of tanuki who got lost in the garden. Harmony is never a complete condition, but rather something changing with the passing of time, and it must be worn over and over again from the turmoil of history. Eventually, most of the tanuki embark on a special symbolical ship traveling towards Fudaraku, or paradise, in the vision of one of the numerous Buddhist schools in Japan, which promotes the idea of an island called Fudaraku existing in western waters, and to which one might reach after embarking on this special ship. When arriving at Fudaraku, all pain and sadness is left behind, and nirvana is attained. Some tanuki live among humans, like Shokichi, one of the main characters, who is now employed in a company and laments the life of commuting daily in overcrowded trains. Sometimes he meets the tanuki who could not metamorphose and are pursuing a painful life in poverty. However, no matter how precarious their life might be now, both categories of Tanuki did not lose their cheerfulness and self-confidence and enjoy every single moment of companionship and happiness. Unlike the Tanuki who fight in defense of their homeland, but eventually they lose the war as the expansion of urban habitable surface and the absorption of the circumfluent rural area is accepted as an economic technical necessity due to increasing population, though the brutal destruction generated by its practical execution lead to the questioning of its ethical effectiveness, the animals in The Not a Job Too, Nutty By Nature, win their battle. Humor, positive description, straightforward comments dominate the narration. The furry heroes are not presented as cuddly potential traffic victims, but as resolute, stubborn, kind-hearted characters possessing individual, human-like character traits. They reproduce the human community, lost at the dawn of modernity, characterized by loose but reliable social relationships. Rather than attempting to convince the audience of the necessity to save the animals and their natural habitat, Cal Brunker goes the long way of confronting the members of the audiences with the world of their most intimate beliefs and emotions, beyond the quotidian, self-driven reality and consciousness, so that they too are inspired to find their inner resources for everyday struggles. The memorability of the characters adds up to their relatability, thus enhancing the transferability of the storyline. They are quotidian actors, leading quotidian existences peppered with quotidian events. There is hardly anything unusual about them. Their struggles and their joys belong to the category experienced by the average citizen. When struck with difficulty, though, they stand up for themselves, look for practical solutions, overcome personal incompatibilities, form alliances, display humility mixed up with courage, protect the weak, and surround them with love and care. The idea of the community encompasses the underlying value of the individual. Unlike in Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, the survival of the fittest as a precondition for the survival of the species is not taken into account. Rather, all for one and one for all lurks in the ideological background and motivates the animals in their fight. No one is left behind, as we are all important in our own way and indispensable parts of a whole greater than its components. Nevertheless, the whole needs each of us equally, is the almighty message conveyed throughout the Not Job Too, Nutty By Nature. The unwitting humanism of this message, its intrinsic statement of love towards life itself, is simultaneously a fundamental reminder that individuals cannot exist without others, with their radical otherness, as Emmanuel Levinas has put it decades ago, being crucial to the diversity of the universal ecosystem. Solely, the alpha male in becoming rises as a nature leader within the small Liberty Park community. He is not elected, as humans do nowadays, but arises organically from within his group when hardship strikes. From an irresponsible, easygoing young male, he evolves towards a self-reliant, self-sufficient member of the community he feels compelled to protect from destruction, inspired by Andy's admiration and affection, which he had first to win over. They were not simply offered to him, and driven by an innate sense of purpose and increasing accountability. In his newly gradually found existential direction, Surly encompasses a fresh identity paradigm which revives older ideas of individual excellence and freedom as responsibility, so that individual choices and their consequences are seen for what they truly are, milestones on the pathway to becoming a self-aware, reliable, future-oriented citizen. Therefore, unlike Ponpoko, the Heisei Tanuki War, who advocates a live and let live existential stance, the Not Job Too, Nutty By Nature, pushes for self-awareness and individual responsibility, backed by unconditional pursuit of what one believes in the name of the collective good. It is eventually the victory of individual excellence and personal growth over collective submissiveness, the answer to global challenges might lay, after all, in each individual's willingness to assume radical accountability. That would be from me for today. Thank you for joining me, thank you for listening to me, and I'm looking forward to welcoming you very soon again. Love and peace to you all.